I've taken a number of quotes from Neville Goddard and I've placed them into lessons. And the idea is to reflect upon this key concept that prosperity, or your version of prosperity, already exists right now. And what's happening is we're moving on what we call the journey. And the journey is revealing and also inspiring us to evolve our assumptions and beliefs about the end result or prosperity and have it externalize accordingly as the journey and the destination. Number one, a multidimensional perspective on prosperity. All is yours. Do not go seeking for that which you are. Appropriate it, claim it, assume it. Everything depends upon your concept of yourself. Most of this journey is evolving the concept that you have about yourself, the beliefs that you have about yourself in relation to prosperity, and the assumptions that you have about yourself in relation to prosperity. The core is really, do you believe that the prosperity is yours? It is for you. If you don't believe it right now, or you've created a separation, that's okay, because the revelation of the beliefs and assumptions that you have hold the key to the evolution of the assumptions and beliefs. We can change our beliefs and our assumptions around, and we could do this through any one of the 4 modalities that I mention a lot, which I'll put a link in the description, or any other concept that works for you, or any other modality that works for you. But the goal is this. We evolve our beliefs and assumptions so we can be more in alignment with the prosperity being here and now and is ours. And this may involve cause and effect reflection that appears to be challenging in the beginning, but through the journey, we constantly find assumptions and beliefs that we have assimilated from the outer world or past experiences that further made us experience the next element that we're going to talk about. However much you seem to be living in a material world, you are actually living in a world of imagination. In other words, we forgot that we are living in the world of imagination, and we have gripped and identified with the physical reality instead of having a fingertip feel on reality and creating reality from our imagination. The outer physical events of life are the fruit of forgotten blossom times, results of previous and usually forgotten states of consciousness. They are the ends running true to oft-time forgotten imaginative origins. In other words, we're recreating the physical world from our assumptions and our beliefs. Much have been assimilated and assumed and identified with, in other words, our concept of ourselves, based on what we learned from others. And if their assumptions and beliefs are not in alignment with prosperity, then we experience a disconnect between prosperity, or our version of prosperity, and where we are right now. The truth is, we are not disconnected from it. We only assume and believe that we're disconnected. And to the degree that we can assume and believe that we are connected with the prosperity, we move through what Neville calls a bridge of incidents, leading to the externalization of our version of prosperity. And so the multidimensional perspective on prosperity is that you are prosperous. All is available to you. Everything exists right now. And the governing element is our assumption and our belief, and we have the power to evolve them. Number 2, which further gets into a deeper understanding of the first point, giving and receiving is one, the law of one. It is only by a change of consciousness, by actually changing your concept of yourself, that you can build more stately mansions, the manifestations of higher and higher concepts. So when we say giving and receiving is one, we can also interpret this as what we call unconditional love, which in David Hawkins' work, Letting Go, he talks about being at a really high state of consciousness where we experience what we call instant manifestations, synchronicities. It is this level of consciousness where our assumptions and beliefs about ourselves and reality is one of alignment of knowing that everything exists right now. So there's no condition applied to our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And always remember that this is an evolution. And to the degree that we evolve into the understanding that what we put out comes back to us in alignment and in harmony, and what we're really putting out is our belief and assumption, we will see it externalized with the precision. If creation is finished and all events are taking place now, the question then springs naturally to the mind, is what determines your time track? That is, what determines the events which you encounter? And the answer is your concept of self. So if all creation is finished and your prosperity already exists and everything, all events are taking place right now in this moment, it just appears as past, present, and future, we still interpret this reality from what we call a time track, a sequence of events. The key is understanding that the sequence of events is based on our beliefs and assumptions, either from the past or ones that we have consciously chosen and affirm and identify with, which represents the concept of self. Everything depends upon its attitude towards itself. That which it will not affirm as true of itself cannot awaken in its world. So we first affirm the idea that prosperity is available, and our version of prosperity is available, and then we continue on the journey, as he calls it, the time track, to reveal further assumptions and beliefs, which we call misalignment or disharmony. And we observe how those assumptions and beliefs create experiences on the time track. And as a result of reflecting back to the cause within, we can go in and we can change it, which we call attitude towards itself. Now, the attitude towards itself is really the relationship between imagination and the outer world, cause and effect reflection, realizing that imagination is the creator of reality, and it may not have been conscious use or harmony-based use of imagination. And based on your level of consciousness right now, you understand that the cause was within, and perhaps it was from the past. However, it's okay. You can let go of the past and change the attitude towards whatever you look at, the outer world experience, people, environment, information. And as a result, that information changes, because when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change to reflect the attitude within. This is the concept of giving and receiving is one, the law of one. Number 3, all resources are within your awareness. Now, depending on what we're looking to create, we have this time track or life track where we say we're working with resources. Now, this is especially true in the space that I deal a lot with when it comes to consulting and coaching, which is the entrepreneurial space. And in this space, we have this story where we work with resources to create success. Now, one of the things that many on this journey fail to realize is that all resources are available right now. The question is, do we see them? If all of creation is complete and everything exists right now, then it's really a matter of identifying the resources on this time track. So Neville says all transformation is based upon suggestion, and this can work only where you lay yourself completely open to an influence. So the idea is, or the influence is, all resources are within your awareness right now. As you continue to assume and form a belief surrounding this, you start to see it more so. Now, as a result of it, it appears that you're working with the resources and moving towards a destination. And this is true from your perspective. However, it was the consciousness shift and the influence of the idea that all the resources are within your awareness that allows you to have this experience. Again, it's based on assumption, revealing the prosperity that exists within you, or externalized in the outer world based on the prosperity consciousness that you enabled within yourself through the assumption. Now, the externalized elements, or we call resources, is part of the story to create what we call entrepreneurial success. Now, this is true not just for entrepreneurial success, any area of success. We have ideas, hunches, inspirations, and synchronicities in the outer world that appear based on the assumptions and beliefs about the level of congruence or alignment, we say, to being one with that prosperity end result. And any separation is identified, simply put, by our beliefs and assumptions about what we experience on the journey and the end result. And the fundamental is, do we believe that it is ours? Attention is powerful in proportion to the narrowness of its focus. That is, when it is obsessed with a single idea or sensation. It is steadied and powerfully focused only by such an adjustment of the mind as permits you to see one thing only, for you steady the attention and increase its power by confining it. Now, if all resources and everything exists right now in this moment, then what we want to do is we want to see how so. And what we assume is that somebody has a high degree of focus is able to see them. The truth is, we already have a high degree of focus, and our focus is governed by our assumptions and beliefs and concept of self. When we realize that the assumptions and beliefs reveal to us about ourselves, and if we don't see the pathway or the resources that are available within our awareness right now, then we assume that we can see the resources. We affirm that we can see it. We evolve our beliefs till we start to see it. And as a result, we experience something called focus. And the reason why what we focus on expands is because what is really expanding is a further multidimensional or dimensionalization of that focus. In other words, what you focus on will continue to affirm itself on the subconscious mind and will continue to externalize it as many different aspects, people, environment, circumstance, and information that represent what is being focused on. Man believes that future to be the natural development of the past, but the law of assumption clearly shows that this is not the case. Your assumption places you psychologically where you are not physically. Then your senses pull you back to where you were psychologically to where you are physically. It is these psychological forward motions that produce your physical forward motions in time. Precognition permeates all the scriptures of the world. Number 5, true to what is in harmony. So we're saying everything exists within our awareness, all resources, everything. Giving and receiving is one, as in what you put out, which is your assumption and belief creates your reality. We're also saying that there's a multidimensional perspective that we can take on reality, which is everything is complete right now. And to the degree that you are, you have it externalized. And the journey only appears as a journey because of our assumptions and beliefs that reveal it to be so as the journey, which is how we want to experience this reality, which is fine. And what we want to do is identify our assumptions and beliefs based on the journey and reflect back and evolve our assumptions and beliefs within to externalize as what we call harmony-based elements in relation to the journey to creating or externalizing that prosperity. So thus, where our attention goes is revealing, true to what is in harmony, where your attention goes. The world moves with motiveless necessity. By this, it is meant that it has no motive of its own, but is under the necessity of manifesting your concept, the arrangement of your mind, and your mind is always arranged in the image of all you believe and consent to as true. The keys are desire, imagination, and a steadily focused attention on the feeling of the wish fulfilled. To such a man, any undesirable objective, fact, is no longer a reality, and the ardent wish no longer a dream. See, what we're really saying here at a deeper level is that when we experience something that we call disharmony, or our attention going in a direction we say is undesirable, it is really based on assumptions and beliefs within that appear to move us in that direction. The assumptions and beliefs spawn from the subconscious, which tunes our attention in that direction, and whatever we affirm through the assumption and beliefs that we assign to what we're looking at reaffirms itself, and we create the same thing again and again. Now, when we say the keys are desire, imagination, and a steadily focused attention, then we continue to honor the end result by cross-referencing and reflecting back on any beliefs and assumptions that show up that deny the assumption and realize that, again, We have the power to evolve it. As a result of evolving this programming, we automatically remain true to what is in harmony. Now, another way of doing this, and I recommend watching the video that I did on this topic, is what we call inner voice. Inner voice is another way of interpreting the journey of creating what you desire and the guidance that allows you to create it, which is really based on your assumptions and beliefs. So your inner voice then is guiding you in the direction of the externalization. The inner voice then can be one that you can have a conversation with to reveal assumptions and beliefs and evolve meaning surrounding whatever you experience to affirm those new assumptions and beliefs and have that externalized. Whenever you become completely absorbed in an emotional state, you are at that moment assuming the feeling of the state fulfilled. If persisted in, whatsoever you are intensely emotional about, you will experience in your world. So if we are experiencing or emotionally persistent, we could say, feeling reactive to a certain element that is in the outer world, I recommend watching the last video I did on proactivity versus reactivity, or switching reactivity over to proactivity, changing the meaning essentially, and understand that this reactivity or intense emotional reaction is based on past beliefs and assumption. So what we're looking for is creating prosperity and realizing that on the bridge of incidents, perhaps there is experiences of strong emotion to what we call the negative or misalignment. We can then reflect upon the meaning that we give to this and evolve that meaning so we are less reactive. And knowing that when we intensely identify with that emotional reaction, we then go into that state of consciousness that continues to create the equivalent of that. Knowing that that's what's happening, we can better identify that we are in a direction of what we call disharmony, and we can release from it. Which brings me to my next important lesson, letting go of disharmony. When you know that consciousness is the one and only reality, conceiving itself to be something good, bad, or indifferent, and becoming that which it conceived itself to be, you are free from the tyranny of second causes, free from the belief that there are causes outside of your own mind that can affect your life. So this is one of the deep understandings that we experience in the journey. The cause is within the mind, the effect is in reality. We start to see it more and more so each day, and as a result, we call this consciousness rising. And we realize that the labels that we give to our experiences further create and also reveal our beliefs and assumptions. And as a result, we can evolve our beliefs and assumptions to bring it even more in alignment with what we call prosperity. And the prosperity that we create is a state of mind that we go into that is really what is being externalized from the state of mind. As in the outer world is a reflection of the inner world, the imagination creates reality. To allow ourselves to go into that state of consciousness, we observe if there's anything that binds us into other states of consciousness, which we call assumptions and beliefs. And as a result of identifying these assumptions and beliefs, which is further identified by the labels that we give to whatever shows up, people, environment, circumstance, or information. These labels are either empowering us and revealing our prosperity, or disempowering us and what we experience as hiding the prosperity, or making it seem like the prosperity is not possible. Therefore, when you know what you want, you must deliberately focus your attention on the feeling of your wish fulfilled until that feeling fills the mind and crowds out all other ideas out of consciousness. So the reason why I categorize this as letting go of disharmony is because much of this journey, when you move into different states of consciousness and have it externalized as reality, is about letting go of other states of consciousness, which we call disharmony or misalignment. Perhaps those states of consciousness served you at a certain point in time. And one of the ways that we let go of those states of consciousness is by not binding ourselves to those states of consciousness based on our assumptions and beliefs about our past. By forgiving, this is the way we release from those states of consciousness and then affirm the state of consciousness that is related to the prosperity. And as we continue to remain in that state of consciousness, this is what is known as feeling of the wish fulfilled. And as a result, the bridge of incidents happens, and if anything occurs on the bridge of incidents, assumptions and beliefs being revealed by our reactivity to the elements in the bridge of incidents, we have the power to release the meaning or disassociate the meaning associated to the experience and align it into a new meaning that is in alignment or assumption and belief to create that and have a favorable journey or a harmony-based journey towards the externalization of the consciousness which represents the prosperity. Your imagination is able to do all that you ask in proportion to the degree of your attention. All progress, all fulfillment of desire depend upon the control and concentration of your attention. Attention may be either attracted from without or directed from within. So when a person says they lack attention, or they're unable to remain in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, or the consciousness that represents the prosperity, then really it is a result of information that is probably received from the outer world, which is directing the attention in the direction, and that information has assimilated itself as beliefs and assumptions. Once the belief and assumption has been held true by the self-image, it continues to orient itself and create from that perspective. However, when it's identified with and released, then it no longer exists, or in other words, excluded out of consciousness. So remember this, attention is attracted from without when you are consciously occupied with the external impressions of the immediate present. In other words, we're too gripping or forceful and identified with to the outer world rather than looking at it as a reflection of the imagination within, and the gripping is based on assumptions and beliefs in which we have identified with, and we live from that perspective. Opening the mind to nuance, tuning to receive. You are limited only by your controlled imagination and lack of attention to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. See, there are many pathways towards the destination or the living of the prosperity. And there are infinite different assumptions and beliefs. We maybe just assume that the assumption and beliefs that we gathered from others is the totality. So we have to then value what we call nuance. There's nuance variations to assumptions and nuance variation to beliefs. And one of the best ways to discover nuance is to reflect upon the quote from the Kabbalion, which is, everything is and isn't at the same time. Because the truth is, the answer, it really depends. When you say everything is from a certain perspective, that's your belief and assumption. If you're saying everything isn't from a certain perspective, that's your belief and assumption. It may or may not be in alignment with the pathway that you desire to be on that translates over to the creation that you want to experience. And so, by releasing our grip on what is and what isn't, by allowing for more possibility, you could say, we can then choose the assumption and belief, the nuance-based assumption and belief that is a lot more in alignment, and affirm that into the concept of ourself and have it externalized accordingly. Be still and know that you are that which you desire to be, and you will never have to search for it. See, to the degree that we remain persistent in the assumption of the feeling of the wish fulfilled or the prosperity, will reveal to us via, a lot of times, our inner voice connection, the in alignment assumptions and beliefs. And as a result of what is being revealed, we remain persistent to those assumptions and beliefs, and we experience those expressions of those assumption beliefs on the journey till we externalize. Your imagination is the instrument. That means whereby your redemption from slavery, sickness, and poverty is effected. If you refuse to assume the responsibility of the incarnation of a new and higher concept of yourself, then you reject the means, the only means whereby your redemption, that is, the attainment of your ideal, can be effected. And in relation to opening your mind to nuance, it is really summarized by understanding this. The beliefs and assumptions that you have assimilated from the outer world are just a possibility, portion of the totality of assumptions and beliefs that can exist, and you can find these assumptions and beliefs that are in alignment that perhaps have never been created in the outer world or given to you as assumption and beliefs, let's say. And you can choose these assumptions and beliefs to bring yourself into a higher degree of alignment with the prosperity that you wish to see externalized. Prosperity externalized as others living in prosperity. Man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. All that befalls a man, all that is done by him, all that comes from him, happens as a result of his state of consciousness. A man's consciousness is all that he thinks and desires and loves, all that he believes is true and consents to. That is why a change of consciousness is necessary before you can change your outer world. So we're talking about interaction with others and really the genuine desire to help others with their versions of prosperity. In order to do that, we change our own consciousness. Otherwise, we're trying to change the effect. We're trying to change the mirror. We try to create prosperity in the outer world, and it may create a Band-Aid solution, but the most powerful change as we continue this journey is done within. And as we change the concept of ourself and externalize our own journey, beliefs, and assumptions that relate to the externalization of our prosperity, we share the beliefs and assumptions to inspire others to also build upon the foundation of those beliefs and assumptions. Now, this is true in the personal development world because what do you really learn from personal development books? Beliefs and assumptions of ways of creating reality. And some of them might resonate with you, but what you'll find in the journey when you've been on it long enough is that you can create your own beliefs and assumptions that are a lot more in alignment and in precision to the kind of experiences that you want on the journey to realizing your prosperity. The change that takes place in your life as a result of your changed concept of yourself always appear to the unenlightened to be the result not of a change of your consciousness, but of choice, outer cause, or coincidence. Now this is okay because no one to change but self. When you change the consciousness within, what you're also going to find is that through the externalization of it, others experience their own version of prosperity and they find it through their own ways. So there's no need to force them into or convince them into their version of prosperity. You externalize your own version of prosperity, and if you choose to do so, your thoughts, emotions, behaviors, your words will be expressed from the consciousness that you remain in, and it'll be received by those in a way that brings them into alignment with their own beliefs and assumptions to create prosperity from their own perspective, which is called being the change. Again, prosperity externalized as others living in prosperity. Because creation is finished, what you desire already exists. It is excluded from view because you can see only the contents of your own consciousness. It is the function of an assumption to call back the excluded view and restore full vision. It is not the world, but your assumptions that change. An assumption brings the invisible into sight. So again, to recap, a multidimensional perspective of prosperity is that everything exists right now. Number 2, giving and receiving is one, the law of one. It's based on your assumptions and beliefs, externalized accordingly as thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and outer world changes that could happen on their own. All the resources and everything you need is within your awareness because everything exists right now. We tune into what is in harmony, which is really what governs our focus. If we experience something on our bridge of incidence that we say is undesirable, we make the change in our consciousness and thus let go of disharmony. And as a result, we open up our mind to greater degrees of understanding of the cause and effect reflection of assumptions and beliefs in the inner world and the results in the outer world. So we're more open to higher degrees of nuance-based assumptions and beliefs that are in alignment. And through our being and living in prosperity, it is externalized as others living in prosperity, either through inspiration or conversation, mainly through being, so no one to change but self. If you want to copy this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.